Good morning, colleagues. This is Chapter 6, Master the Art of Probing and Summarizing. So what Egan does is he breaks down in each of these chapters, breaks down particular skills that you need in order to be a good interviewer and be a good caseworker, and even as later on be a good therapist as you go forward. And in reality, we're all therapists. Don't quote me on that because, of course, there's licensing and other kinds of limitations, or you could say you get allowed to do things with certain licensing and um, certifications. But the truth is that we're all practicing the art of having relationships. And what this is about is having relationships. And it doesn't mean that you can't apply this to your family. I'm always reminding you of that, or your friendships, or your husband and wife, particular relationships, child, parent, child. You have to adapt it to those particular kinds of relationships. But it's not about being an expert with a license. It's about being an expert at the skills and an expert at knowing yourself. So let's look at this. Let's quickly go through this, and let me share my views on this chapter's bullet points, so to speak. Chapters go into much more in depth and give you research to back up what he's saying. So I'm just another source that you can listen to as far as how I do some of this stuff, or how it applies to the way I do my work. So we have what's called, I think I may have, let me make sure I didn't judge ahead too far there. No, okay, nudging. He breaks it down into where you sort of like learn to bud, you nudge people. Helpers as choice architects have the responsibility for organizing the context in which people make decisions. So I like that concept of being a choice architect. We're designing systems, we're designing environments that help people uh, recognize and give them the power, empowering them to make choices. You know, when I was an alcoholic and didn't know any better, I didn't know I lost the power. I didn't know anymore. I completely lost the knowledge that I had a choice. The addiction itself, the disease, taught me that the only thing I could do is just try to get back to that initial euphoria that I got. And of course, even when I did it occasionally, which was so rare at the end, it was no longer, I didn't get back to it. It was just a job. Every day I got up and tried to get back to zero, to keep from getting sick, basically. But I didn't know that's what I was doing. I thought I was trying to get to euphoria. I thought I was doing the only thing I could, and it wasn't even, I lost even the awareness that I wasn't getting anywhere. I was slipping, my tires were slipping, and I was going nowhere. And so, um, I had to go in and I had to work with somebody who taught me I had this choice. I could make this choice 1 hour at a time. I didn't have to make it for the rest of my life. In fact, that's a relapse symptom now, is if I say I'm never going to drink again, because all I have to remember is I don't have to do it for the next hour. And when things get tough, that's all I can handle. Sometimes I can't even handle that, and I pray. And I pray the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And so I was taught that prayer teaches me I have a choice. I can ask God. That's another choice I have. I can ask God to give me the power to make it through the day. Sometimes it's just, oh my God, Jesus help me. And over some of the smallest things, I do that because I'm just feeling overwhelmed and anxious ridden. And so to deal with my anxiety, I just, I invoke the name of my Lord in a positive way. So we organize it the context. So context can be where we meet. It can be the atmosphere of your office. It can be a painting on the wall. It can be the conversation that you have. It's where you go. Maybe go out to Osage for yourself. Those are all ways to organize the context. In the hands of a savvy, principled helpers, the model, methods, and skills can be used as nudges. So we nudge people, we give them a little hint. In other words, we're not trying to manipulate, we're hinting at another way. You know, that's what all they did with me was ask questions. Well, you want to quit, don't you? And I just wanted to, I just thought this guy's stupid. You know, he was actually another uh, client at the treatment center who had been there longer than me, and they asked him to go in and talk to me, and he said, "Well, you want to quit, don't you?" And I said, "Well, yeah, but I can't. I didn't have an answer for that." And he said, "Well, you could do it for an hour, couldn't you?" Well, yeah, I'd even been there by that time. I'd been there an hour, and I said, "Well, yeah." And this light started to shine in the back of my head. And he said, "If you do it for an hour, and you join with us and you do it, you put 24 of those hours together, then you've got a day and you start over. That's all you have to do." And he said, "You could do it for 15 minutes, couldn't you?" I said, "Well, yeah." So you put all of that together into a day and then you start over the next day. And then you join with us in meeting together as a group to support each other in doing that. And And so that's what we're doing here. And it just like somebody turned on a light bulb for me. I'd been in the dark for so long and I couldn't find the string. I didn't even know I'd given up. And this guy gave me hope. So he was savvy, and he wasn't a professional. He was a professional alcoholic. Yeah, this guy actually, I later on as a counselor, I saw him come back into the treatment center. He was still struggling, and I wondered, well, why did I get it and he didn't? Well, actually, I didn't get it all. He didn't get it all. I didn't get it all either. I didn't even know how much I didn't get yet. So I had to learn that later on. Probing and summarizing are often used as nudges. Their gentle power, rightly used, can be of great benefit to the client. So we're being gentle here. We realize we're handling dynamite and we're just pushing a little bit. We don't want to shake up that nitroglycerin because if you drop it, it blows up. Although it's essential that helpers respond with empathy when their clients reveal themselves, it's also necessary at times to nudge, encourage, or prompt clients to explore. So asking them to try something different, explore their concerns when they do. I'm sorry, I left out the last line there. Um, Prompt clients to explore their concerns when they fail to do so spontaneously. So obviously I was still in the dark. I wasn't able to spontaneously find the light switch. And this guy flipped on the light switch and asked me, "Do I like that? Do you think I could get to this light switch? Do you think I could keep it on?" Yes, yes. But, and in the back of my mind, I was so deceived that I couldn't accept uh, the truth. It was too obvious. It was too simple. How could I not have understood that? I'm so smart, see. I'm such an intelligent human being. I'm such an arrogant ass, is what I was. So, but this guy comes in, and obviously this guy, to me, I was smarter than he was. Come on. How could he get it, has seen this so easily, and I didn't? So, anyway, all that stuff. Ego crap. Prompts and probes are verbal and sometimes nonverbal tactics for helping clients to talk more freely and concretely about any issue at any stage of the helping process. So we're just prompting and probing. Where prompting might be, well, have you tried this? Probing might be, let's look into that deeper, or making a statement about looking into it deeper. or asking a question about something that they've been talking about, but at another level. Prompts are brief verbal or nonverbal interventions designed to let clients know that you are with them, to encourage them to talk further. So a prompt could also just be a nod of the head, or it could be a face. I like to make faces. I like to go, oh, like, here, wait a minute, you got to get my face. Oh, it's scary when I look at myself in this mirror. Um, I might go, oh, have you seen me make faces? To make a face that's over exaggerated, and not in a way to make fun of them, but a way that um, allows them to see maybe a normal response to what they just said is, whoa, you know, just to show surprise, to not just, it's not always being neutral, it's being genuine, right? And sometimes we do it a little bit over the top just to get their attention because they get so wrapped up. And, some of these folks, they've told their stories so many times and they've just gotten on a carousel telling that story. And they just keep going round. I don't know if you've been around people like that. I don't know if you've ever been that way, going round and round and round in your head, and or out verbally. Non-verbally is the worst because you're locked in your head and you just keep going. Well, and then you can also do these things like, well, if she said, then he said, then I'll say, then this said, then that said. You have this whole freaking conversation in your head um, about something that's not even happening. You know, that hasn't even happened yet. So, that way. Anyway, hi. Um, so that tells you about prompts. Okay. Oh, I've got to hit something else here now because I clicked out of the. There we go. Verbal and nonverbal prompts. The vocal ones are examples are sure, hmm, yes, well, I see, ah, okay, oh, and they could be anything, grunts, they can be any verbal, anything that's vocal. Nonverbal prompts are like body movements, gestures, hand with your hands, nods, eye movements. I've done, hit my head. Codependence is always worrying about somebody else so that I'll feel better. So if I can get you to act right, I'll quit worrying. I'll ease my anxiety. You see, if you grow up around insanity, you learn to live with anxiety, and the only way to solve that anxiety is to make the person that you perceive causing the anxiety to act in a certain way so you can calm down. If they would get their drinking under control, then I would calm down. If they would get their depression or mental illness under control, then I would calm down. If my kids would just straighten up, then I would calm down. When it's really your responsibility to calm down. But here's the codependent salute. It's, oh my gosh. So I've done that, and I've even taught people that. Whenever they start going off into what I think is codependency, I'll teach them, the codependent salute. I go, yeah, right here. See, yeah. Or that one where you talk about the world's smallest violin playing. I can't remember what you say. Playing it's some song when people are feeling sorry for themselves. You hear the music come in, and they're talking about how terrible it is, and you teach them this. Okay, this is the world's smallest violin playing a song for you. So and you have to do that in a way that's not offensive. Okay, so you get to know people well enough, create a context where you can do things like that. Your friendship, friendly. You don't have an honest friendship because you're being paid, or you've been, or you're the father, or you're the mother. You can't be a friend to your kids. I'm sorry. You can be friendly. You can be shoot for friendship later on, adult friendship, right? I want to have friendship with my adult children without having to be a father, like to be there to tell them what to do now. They might come to me for counsel, but I'm in a different role than I was when they were growing up, and we weren't colleagues then. We were just I was training them to be my colleagues in the world. Anyway, okay, I'll try to keep this moving. Probes help clients name, take notice of, explore, clarify, or further define an issue at any point in the helping process. They're designed to provide clarity and to move things forward. Probes take different forms. Statements. Probes in this form of statements, indicating the need for further clarity. So I'll say something like, tell me more about that. Or could you repeat that? Wait a minute. I'll tell people it was I'll take responsibility. Maybe I missed something here, but could you go back over that? Or requests. That's what I just did, I guess. Direct requests for further information. But it can be a statement indicating the need for further clarity. So I can say it like this. So what it seems like what I hear is that you are saying this, and you put a question mark on the end, verbally. You know how to do that. Uh, you'll hear it all the time now that you start thinking about it and you start noticing it in your friends and in your relationships. Questions, perhaps the most common type of probe. So we start asking questions. And then single words or phrases such as used as questions or requests. And so you'll say, yes, or what, or oh, you're kidding. And so what you're saying is you're asking them to really respond to that. See, you don't even have to put a question mark on that. You're kidding. Because then they'll say, no, I mean it. Or they'll say, well, yeah, a little bit, but it was sort of that way. You see what I'm saying? So what we're talking about is here's something these aren't anything you haven't heard, you haven't done yourself or heard of before. But we're talking about thinking about them in a structured way now that you can apply them in a therapeutic manner, in a way that helps people go forward. We're helping people take action. That's what this whole skilled helpers model is. It's all about helping people take action in their lives and move forward, move toward their goals. And most people come to us stuck, so we want to unstuck them. Unstuck them, that's a good academic way of putting it. Here's guidelines. So we have guidelines for using questions effectively. Not too many. If you keep asking question after question after question, they feel like you're not really listening, right? We need to take time to listen and then ask questions judiciously. Like as if good judgment. Ask open-ended questions. So when I did my interviews for my research, we designed all of the initial questions to be open-ended, and my goal was to always ask open-ended questions because I'm not trying to get the answer. I'm trying to get their subjective answer to the question. So the expectation was that each person's going to have their own subjective answer to the question, to each of the questions, so that I had to be as neutral as possible and to ask each question the same way to each person, and then, but leave it open-ended. So you don't ask a question that has an answer. You ask a question that could be answered any way that they choose to do so. So there's no yes and no questions. Catch yourself doing that, you're off balance. These generally help clients fill in what is missing at every stage of the helping process. We respond constructively to clients' questions. Too many helpers respond poorly to these. Clients' questions offer opportunities for collaboration. So we learn to say things like, I might say things like, you've probably heard me if you've been in class very long. Somebody will say, now, when I give an assignment, they'll say, should we use the ink markers or the Crayolas? And I'll go, yes. because I don't want to make that decision. And they'll laugh and I'll say, that's up to you. So I'm not just leaving it hanging. I'm not making fun of them and leaving them hanging. I'm saying, look, this is about you and me collaborating, but you need to be in on it with me. So I'm giving you those options for you to choose. And see, that nudges them forward, because once you make a choice, I know you may or may not know this, but once you make a choice, it eliminates other choices, makes it harder to do other choices. Sometimes it makes it impossible. If you believe in marriage until death do us part, you should be saying, I'm eliminating other choices. I'm choosing to be with you for the rest of my life. Now, are there times when you have to go back on that choice? Yes. But all things being equal, if they're submitted to you and you're submitted to them, you've eliminated the choice of choosing someone else. Okay? And when the temptation comes to dally, this is an old word for it, mess around. You probably have a different word for it nowadays. But anyway, in the old days, codgers like me, we'd use things like, we're going to go dally with some little gal, or sneak off and have a little uh, side stuff on the side. We eliminate those kind of questions. Um, so we respond constructively to clients' questions, and we learn how to bring forth collaboration on our questions when we answer their questions. Uh, and I think sometimes we think we have to answer a question when we can say, kind of like the new president's person that comes out through the press conferences and answers the reporters' questions. I'm going to have to circle back on you on that. Now, you see, that's not constructive if you do it every time. Every question that you're asked, I have to circle back with you on that. I'll circle back with you on that. I'll get back to you. But there are times when you can say, I need to think about that, because you're honoring the question. You're saying wow, that's such a good question. I don't have an answer for it right now. Could you give me, could I have some time? So there you go. That makes sense, I think. Probes. Guidelines for using probes. Use your ongoing feedback system as a way of probing. So what I hear you saying is a way of probing. Use probes to help clients engage as fully as possible in the therapeutic dialogue. You want the people you're with to expand into the dialogue completely, not to be a partial participant, but a complete participant, immersed in the conversation, and have them as focused and as invested in it as possible. And you use probes to help them do this and to achieve concreteness and clarity. Sometimes for instance, in building bridges, we talk about people in poverty. They live in a concrete world. How am I going to get the food to eat that I need today? How am I going to get the bill paid so we can have heat in our house? How am I going to get my kid to the doctor because they're getting so sick, I'm really scared? How am I going to get a car to get to the doctor? Not a car for the rest of my life so I can do it for the next 6 months, but how can I find somebody right now? Those are concrete answers to immediate emergency or urgent questions. But in this, we're doing the opposite. People come in with abstract thought processes, or they're stuck in one concrete answer. My husband's a total jerk, and I don't know I can't get away from him or whatever. We use probes to explore and clarify, or to help them achieve a concrete. What are the facts here that we need to deal with? Not your fears, or those are important too. Those might be a fact. Your feelings are a fact. They just aren't necessarily reality. They're real, but they're not necessarily connected to reality. Your fear is real. It's literally you're literally sweating beads of sweat off your forehead, or you're shaking in fear, but it may be about something that hasn't happened or is not going to happen. Use probes to explore and clarify clients' points of view. intentions, proposals, and decisions. So we want to find out where they're coming from and help them, then use that as a possible way of moving forward and a way of not moving forward. We don't want them to violate their values. Use probes to help clients fill in missing pieces of the picture. So we look at the puzzle, what parts of the puzzle is missing here? How can we fill that in? What's missing, and can we figure it out? Let's figure out what that is. That it's a free-floating fear, anxiety, just floating out there. We don't know what it's about. Maybe it's about something. What I'll ask people in on-site, in psychodrama is, or even in individual therapy, when they start talking about I'll see them being really fearful about a situation that seems to not really be that. I mean, it's something to be scared of, but it's not like a lion going down the hallway. But they're acting like it's a lion, and I'll say, "Does this remind you of something in the past?" So from my psychodynamic perspective, I'm looking for something that this is taking them back to, some deep, deep-seated fear that this triggered in them. Use probes to help clients get a balanced view of the problem, situation, or opportunity, obviously. Use probes to help clients move into more beneficial stages of the helping process, and use them to invite clients to challenge themselves. After using a probe to which a client responds, share a response that expresses and checks your understanding. So once they respond to the probe, we ask if we understand correctly what they're saying. Be hesitant to follow one probe after another. Be careful about pounding them with probes, so to speak, for a metaphor there. You want to you use them gently and use them judiciously again. Just like, we use everything with a grain of salt, they used to say. In other words, it doesn't take very much salt to increase the taste, to bring it up to where we need it. And if you use too much salt, I don't know if you're bitten into something that was too salty, had too much salt on it, it's not a very pleasant thing to eat. An effective probe yields information you need to listen to and to understand. So we need to take time to listen to what they said, really understand it. And accurate, because sometimes I like to jump to conclusions. I like to get to, as a typical male, stereotypical response is that I want to solve the problem. And so I'm jumping to conclusions when it might not be that they're really trying, that's not really what they want. What they really need is to understand something else that's going on, rather than, maybe they're not even asking me to fix it, like my wife. She's not asking me to fix it. She's asking me to listen to her, to understand her feelings about it. But I'll jump to the conclusion that she wants me to fix it. Well, let's fix it so you can quit asking me about it. Quit having feelings. Because your feelings are making me nervous, right? I feel like I have to fix everything. I have to fix your feelings, which I can't. But I feel like I have to. An accurate empathetic response puts the ball back into the client's court to explore further. So when I recognize my wife's fear, then she can go, "Oh yes, you get it," and now she can calm down, knowing somebody's with her, and she can think about, well, what's causing the fear, and how can we? Then she can think about how she can solve, if there needs to be a solution, how she can get to that solution with it. And I'm not responsible for that. She is. All I'm responsible for is my response, my probe, and my listening to what she's saying. So my probe is, what's wrong? Because I can always tell what's wrong, because I'm one of those people, that I can sense across the room, in a crowded room, who's upset. I can tell if I have my radar on. But especially with somebody on one-on-one, somebody that I care about, I know when something's bothering her, and she'll say nothing, and I know there's something bothering you, and sometimes I got to remember not to probe. See, I could keep probing, and she just might not be ready to talk about it. So I could say, well, if there is something later on you figure it out, you want to tell me, let me know, and I can walk away. Now, yes, I can walk away, but that doesn't mean I can quit worrying about it. So I just keep it in the back of my mind, and but I can say, I'm here if you need me, and then that opens the door for her to talk to me. And when she says, I don't know what to do about this bill, and I think she looks angry or she's starting to like increase, and her level of anxiety is rising, but I'm just recognizing it as a level of I'm going to be in trouble now, because I spent too much money and I have to pay this bill, blah blah blah, and I'm a bad person. And instead of saying, you're scared, aren't you? And she'll go, yes. And see, she sees I get her feelings. I help her to understand. I identify with her feelings, and that gives focus to their story so she can tell me her story. Help, help, and it also helps non-assertive or reluctant clients to tell their stories and engage other behaviors related to the managing of their problems. So you can see all these are great reasons why we use probes. It also helps clients open up new areas for discussion, helps clients explore and clarify points of view, decisions, and proposals, help clients be as concrete and specific as possible, help clients remain focused on relevant and important issues, and helps the clients move on to a further stage of helping process. So we want to move forward, right? When using probes, how effectively do you do the following? Use probes to provide mild challenges to clients, to examine the way they think, behave, and act, both within the helping sessions and in their daily lives. We want them to just think about themselves, think about their thinking, do metacognition, think about thinking, think about their feelings, meta emotions. Um, make make sure that probing is done in the spirit of empathy. We're doing it because we care. We're doing it because we've developed, and we want to walk in their shoes, and we understand that the importance here is that I understand how you feel. Use a mix of statements, open-ended questions and prompts and requests, not questions alone. So you don't just keep asking questions again. Follow up a successful probe with an empathetic highlight rather than another probe. So what's an empathetic highlight? An empathetic highlight is, oh, so uh, I see. Okay, so when I say, are you scared? And my wife says, yes, and I might say, oh, I know how that feels, or man, yes, I get it. I can see that. I see that. So I'm emphasizing that I understand what she's saying. Empathy. Use whatever judicious mixture as needed to help clients clarify and do all of the above. Summarizing is the ability to summarize and to help clients summarize the main points of the helping interchange or session is a skill that can be used to provide focus, direction, and challenge. Sometimes I'll summarize things at the beginning of maybe we met together once, and then I'll summarize the last time we met. You probably do this with your friends. When you see Joe over there that you had a really great time with last time, you say, "Man, you crazy guy! I had a stomach ache. I laughed so hard." That's the way it was with my friend Hunter when we're together. I literally laughed last time we were together. There was one of our staff meetings where we got, you get done and we start, and Hunter's is the pun. He's a pun. He's a professional pun artist. He can do pun after pun after pun, and he gets you to laugh and you can't stop. And he and I do it together, and he triggers me so I can do another one, and I'll think of one because he does it automatically, but I have to think about them. But I can start thinking of them because he's doing it, and my spontaneity kicks in, and so we're doing it together, and we start laughing so hard, and we get goofy with the other people in the staff, with our other colleagues, Because, when you're doing intensive therapy, for like what we're doing, you have a release. It's because you're sitting for maybe 2 hours at a time, hour and a half to 2 hours at a time without taking a break, and you're sometimes talking about the most intense information, maybe doing role plays, and all kinds of really excessively draining, or it takes a lot of concentration. You need to have a time when you can just let go and laugh or cry or whatever you need to do. So we need to summarize with people. So sometimes I'll summarize at the beginning. And if you had a bad relationship, maybe experience, you could say, last time, here's what I saw happen, and I don't want that to happen anymore. And I want to have a good relationship with you, or, those kinds of things. So summarizing at the end of it, you can also do it obviously at the end after you've had a time together. It provides focus and direction. The goals that can be achieved by judicious use of summarizing are warming up the client. So like I said, you summarize what happened last time. That's why I keep notes to a certain extent, because if you're seeing 5 clients a day, one right after another, to have that little genogram there and to be able to remember, oh yeah, I remember what we did last time, and have like where I worked for the mental health center as a part-time, I went on, did some part-time work. They had a little sheet that you filled out after every session where you did a brief summary of what you covered and what the goals were, what your overall goals are, because with each client we came up with a goal, because that's what the insurance company wants to see, and then how what you did helped move them toward that goal. And then we focus on, we warm up the client, so we get them back up to speed, maybe back to the point where they left off. We focus on scattered thoughts and feelings, so we draw the scattered thoughts and feelings into a coherence that we can at least say, this was kind of the cloud word that we talked about last time. For sometimes that's all you can do. And even yourself, bringing your own focused scattered thoughts together and asking the client if that's what they remember. Bringing the discussion of a particular theme to a close. So, we get to a point where we finally get, wow, I think that's going to do it. I think that's a plan. And so we summarize, what was the plan? What is the plan? And then prompting the client to explore a theme more thoroughly. So as we summarize, now where can we go from here? So you use them, obviously, like I said, at the beginning of the new session, prevents the client from repeating what has been said before, which, like I said, a lot of times people they get stuck in their story, and they just keep telling telling it over and over again uh, without any interruption, or without going off in a different direction, so that they find a different solution, or a solution period, or a goal or a direction. We do it in a session that's going nowhere. So when you start feeling that feeling, oh my God, we're going around in circles here. You can literally say that, I'm starting to get dizzy, and you could laugh, because I feel like I'm going around in circles here. Could we stop and talk about let's summarize what's happened so far. And then look at the goal. Here's the goal. Here's why you came in. So how is what we're doing right now helping? Let's see how we can focus it toward that goal. So there's 100 ways, 1,000 ways to do this. And you're each specialized instruments of God's love. You're each specialized write that down, please. That's wonderful. I should write that down in the book. You're each specialized instruments made in God's image of God's love. And you're going to use your own, and the more you develop your spontaneity, God gave you this creativity, and you can learn spontaneity, and you can grow it and nurture it. That's why I like psychodrama training, because it helps me as well as the client. I learn how to be spontaneous. I learn how to trust myself. So when I have an urge or a nudge, I'll feel this nudge to do it, and I'll think, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to say that. I'm reminded one time, this guy was going back into his childhood, and he was stuck in this horrible situation as a baby, and he was laying there as the baby, and I started singing, "Oh, way in a manger." I had this urge. It's what I used to sing to my daughter, and I thought, "Ah, that's not appropriate. That's just me putting my stuff into it, right?" It was just me thinking about, but God said, I didn't hear a voice, but I felt nudge. I felt sometimes God nudges us too, right? So I felt this nudge to do it, and I said it. I started singing it, and the guy goes, "Oh, that's what my mom. That's what my mom always did for me. She always sung that song." And when we got done, we're given the feedback. My psychodrama teacher. I'm just getting goosebumps thinking about it. My psychodrama teacher said, and she we were talking about it afterwards, and she looks at me and she says, "And where did that come from?" And I had a similar experience when I had an intern in my group room. We were doing psychodrama. We were doing group at on site, and I had an intern. We train people to see if they're appropriate and to make sure they understand how we do things at on site. And so I'm training. She's in the group as a helping therapist at the group, and um, this guy had been totally resisting doing a piece of work because he came there, but he's stuck and he didn't want to do anything. He didn't want to do a role play. And so I had this vision of the movie Contact, where she goes. This sounds weird, but I'll just say it briefly. She goes into this machine that takes her through a wormhole that the aliens or the other people in other dimensions sent to us finally when we were ready. Sent this machine and or these plans for a machine, and we build it. And she's the first person that takes this machine, and it takes her to this place, and it looks just like a beach in the Bahamas. And she sees this really blurry figure walking toward her on the beach. And as it gets closer, this blurry figure gets closer, she starts to recognize it's her father who died when she was a child. And he comes up and has this conversation with her, but he tells her, she says, "You're not really my father." And he says, "No, but we wanted to take a form that you would understand so that we could have a conversation." And so what I asked this guy, I had this guy visualize, just he was willing to do like visualization, so I just said, "Look, I want you to take a moment with me," and I just put some music on it. I said, "I just want you to imagine that you're on a beach, and there's an image of a form. It looks like a person walking toward you, but it's blurry. And as that person comes forward towards you, I want you to tell me, as that person they start to get into focus, and if you were going to talk to anyone while you were here, who would that person be?" And it was like immediate. He goes, "My son." And so then I had put a pillow out in the middle of the room. He didn't want to have anybody else involved. And I said, I want you to would you be your son for a moment?" I had him be his son. And then I had him, I think, and then I had him talk to his son. And he had a very intense meeting, asking forgiveness of his son. And my intern afterwards, she goes, when we were doing the staffing with the clinical coordinator, she says, "I don't think I can do this." And the coordinator says, "Why not?" Because I told the coordinator, said, "She's great. She does everything. She's really good. She actually became an on-site therapist." And she says, she looks at me and she says, "What he did with that client, where did that come from?" And I said, "Look, that was just something that God came from God. He popped it into my brain, and it worked. Because I don't know. It's the only explanation I can give you." So I don't know how that got off on, but we helped him get a new perspective. His thoughts were scattered. Sometimes God nudges us. Sometimes we nudge them. We do summaries to help people get to where they're going to go. And anyway, sorry, it was a good story though. I'm glad I got to share it with you. We come to grips with the shadow side of communication skills. So we recognize that there's always a shadow side. And it's pretty important to be aware of that. Sometimes it's more important to be aware of the shadow side than the good side. Because we can recognize good pretty easy. Sometimes we do bad trying to do good. Communication skills are necessary but not sufficient. They're not enough. Like I said, I had a spiritual moment, a nudge from God. You have to be able to be in contact with your authentic self. Distinguish between the helping relationship and the helping technologies. So, helping technologies are the skills you're using here. You can learn these skills. You can get really good at each one of these things and list them off and memorize them and know the names of them, but that's not what's important. You don't need to know the name of it. It can be helpful. These are technologies that are helpful, but just practicing, and knowing if you're doing it, you can help yourself focus on that one skill. Maybe you're good at one skill, but not so much at another. So you find ways of developing proficiency in communication skills. Does that make sense? All right. That was only 45 minutes for 20 slides. I'm sorry, guys. I hope you're having a great week. Hang in there. I'm glad you're getting to do this and getting to stay warm, hopefully, and I will talk to you soon. Make sure you check out Brightspace for any further instructions.